people.
2 a.m.
We hung out till like 4:30.
It was like 1:30 max, Jay.
We hung out for like 3 hours after you left.
You're an adult, Jay.
I didn't know that was the plan. I just said, hey, we're going to hang out. And I'd be like, oh, okay.
Well, Maddie came
It's not
in
enough to just
with
hang out with us?
Maddie came in with Kevin. Well, Kevin took the Bud Light out of his fanny pack and started drinking.
Oh, my Bud Light fanny pack. Woo.
And then Maddie's like, let's play some Taboo. I was about ready to go to bed. I'm like, all right, let's do it.
We dominated. It was amazing.
We
didn't actually play.
I would have had a stupid team.
we make sure to put Jay on the stupid team, right, Kevin?
Well, who would have been the stupid team, Jay? You want to name names?
Ooh.
Okay, maybe not. Maybe not. And with that,
there was 6 people there.
Let's get into the show. Welcome everybody to the NRDWave podcast. This week, going to be doing something that we haven't done yet so far, and that's a movie review. We all saw Sonic over the last weekend. We had some thoughts, so maybe we should just get right down into it. I'm Kevin, by the way. You probably know that after the first 2 episodes. And who do I have with me, guys?
Me llamo Jay.
Me llamo Bobby.
This isn't a bilingual podcast. I'm not going to be able to keep up.
I don't know.
Are you saying our listeners?
It's like
Yo no
mono
entiendo.
with a little mono point. I don't know. 1.1 language.
Are you saying our listeners won't speak that human language?
Why don't you speak binary, Jay?
0 1 dot. There's no dots in there. 0 1 0 0
So-
1 0 1 0 0 1.
So you're not fluent. Okay, so yeah, and Bobby, did you introduce yourself? If not, I just did.
Me
So
llamo Bobby. I'll say it again.
Lamo.
Yeah. He's a male llama.
All right, guys. So we saw Sonic over the weekend. So let's just talk about some stuff that we liked, disliked. Spoiler free for the first half of this. Then we'll move into more spoilery stuff if necessary. So why don't you start, Bobby? What did you like about the movie?
I thought one of the things I thought was really good because obviously it's a real person working with a green screen for the most part. I thought the chemistry between James Marsden's character and Sonic was actually quite good. You know, you see a lot of stuff with like the Hobbit movies and the Star Wars prequels where they work with, you know, animated characters and you can kind of see the quality suffer. You didn't actually see that in this movie, which I thought was a huge plus for it.
What about you, Jay? What did you like about the movie?
I liked, honestly, I liked Sonic's personality. It came off a lot like the old cartoon and some of the video games. I can't remember the actor's name. The guy that does John Ralphio. He was pretty good.
Ben Schwartz.
Yeah. I liked him a lot. I think he was gave the character a lot of personality. James Marsden was really good, too. And like Bobby said, the acting between any CG character, it didn't really seem like they were staring at a tennis ball on a stick like they do in all the rest of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was pretty seamless. A lot of the characters, though, seemed kind of unnecessary. Robotnik was
We're just
really
talking
over
about
the
stuff
top.
we like right now, Jay. We'll get into the stuff we don't
Right.
like.
But
Bobby just
I like that
steamrolling
they
into
weren't
it.
necessary.
Oh, okay. In that case, continue. My apologies.
now.
Okay. I'm done now. All right, sorry to step on you like that. But yeah, for me, what I liked was the visuals. I thought it was actually a really good-looking movie. A lot of the special effects, especially after the redesign, because originally, man, Sonic was rough, but he looks great. He looks great in the movie. Yeah, I liked the relationship between the two characters, James Marsden character and Sonic, but I did think that the dialogue left some stuff to be desired. But that was just, I was trying to put myself into the mindset of like a kid that would watch this movie, because I don't think we're really the ones that are supposed to be seeing this. So
You mean 3 people in their 30s aren't the target demographic?
which is weird, because we're the ones who were playing the games when they were new. So it's
I
like,
also watch people play the games. My aunt had her boyfriend Sega there, and she would never let me play it unless he was there, and he was never there. So anytime I asked to play Sega, she's like, "Nope, you can't touch it." And then she'd play it in front of me.
That's so mean.
wow. So this turned into a therapy session. How did that make you feel, Jay?
That made me feel really, really bad. I buried those emotions.
Wow. That long pause for bad was
Dramatic
was
effect.
awesome. You know how to. You really know how to build
I think I have
Tension.
Suspense.
It grew into apathy after a while.
Yeah. Well, I played the games a lot when I was a kid. We had a Genesis. I wasn't a Nintendo guy, so I played Sonic a lot. It was fun until you get to the water level, and then it gets really bad, really tough. But
It's like in any game.
yeah. But anyways, back to the movie. Yeah, it was kind of. I thought Jim Carrey was really good too. He was kind of a mixture of Ace Ventura and the Riddler, especially. I'll try and be as spoiler free as possible, but especially when he's like interacting with his technology in his like high tech trailer, really, really fun.
He was very showy.
It was a chance for him to really just let loose. It seemed like, and he seemed like he was enjoying doing that kind of stuff.
He's such a physical actor, and it really lets him shine when he gets to use that.
Right.
Yeah, it was very Batman when he was Riddler. Very, very much that. Like his body language, just the way he used his body for everything. It was in all his movements. His whole body would be involved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. He's very, very animated, which goes along well with the cartoony aspect of the show or of the movie, because it is basically just a cartoon with some live action people in it. Which how often do they do that kind of thing in movies where there's just one CGI character for the entire film?
And it's the main character.
Yeah,
that's a good question. I can't even really think of too many off the top of my head.
Roger Rabbit was probably the first one to do it,
but he wasn't the only one though. There were several.
True, but that was the first time where they blended in an animated character.
But just imagine how hard that was, because Roger Rabbit was done on cells. He was drawn. He wasn't a CGI character, so
exactly.
I mean, there wasn't. I mean, obviously there was an actor there to play his parts, so that you saw where someone was looking and the interactions looked real. But it was. I mean, think about it. When that was done, that was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great movie. We should do a review of that someday. Stay tuned.
Put it out right now. Bye, guys.
Let's see if we're talking about more of the good. The last time we did a top video game movies review, or I guess review, yeah. And I think this would have topped my list had I seen it before we did that. I think it was a fun movie that didn't really have a lot of down parts. It wasn't great at any point, but it also wasn't bad at any point. I think it was enjoyable throughout, and just it held my attention. It sounds like a small thing, but holding somebody's attention in a movie is a pretty big thing to do these days.
So I actually have my list up right here from that episode, and if you haven't listened to that one yet, go check it out. But I'm not sure that it would top my list. It would definitely, I think it would crack the top 5. But I don't think it's more entertaining than Doom was, just because I love the actors in that movie.
That's true.
But yeah, it's definitely one of the better ones out there, and the fact that it's getting a lot of financial success right now, that's a good sign for the genre. We may get remakes of ones that did not do so well, like Mario, obviously, probably the biggest example of that. So yeah, it's a good sign. And we could always use some more nerd stuff out there, especially for what we're trying to do. So,
especially when they actually seem like they're going to want to do it. They're going to put some effort into it and not make it just cheesy. Yeah,
it's not going to be an Bull movie.
Well, this is by no means a serious movie. It is very cheesy. But yeah,
but that's
your point. Yeah,
it's not a tax dodge.
Right, exactly. There was actual effort put into the writing and the acting and stuff like that. So yeah, pleasantly surprised for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you guys liked about it?
Let's see. I think James Marsden was a fun choice as, what was his name, Tom? I don't really remember. I don't really remember. So the Donut Lord. Spoilers.
Donut Lord.
I think James Marsden, I think he's a very charismatic actor. I think he played the role as well as anybody would have. And I think he and Ben Schwartz had a lot of chemistry, again, even without being able to work with each other one-on-one. Again, it was very kiddish, but obviously that seemed to be the That seemed to be the people that they were going for, the target audience. So it makes sense. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more adult humor, but I guess that's not really something that they were going for anyway.
Yeah, unless anybody else has anything to add about what they liked about it. Did you have something to say, Jay?
I mean, I just go back to the fact that I like that they put the effort again into creating a whole new Sonic after obviously miserably failing with the first iteration of him. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, that was very encouraging because well, I wasn't super vocal about it at the time, but I remember looking at that original trailer and I was like, it's kind of ugly. And the media or the internet outrage really it worked essentially, and it got the job done. So that's a good thing. They were listening, which is going to be good for when the inevitable sequel comes out, because whatever complaints that people have out there now, they're paying attention. So
what's interesting is I've heard some people say that they put that out there intentionally and intentionally bad to make it seem like, oh, they actually listened to us, and then they put out the good one after, which I think would be an interesting publicity ploy, because I didn't care about the movie before, like even when I saw the first trailer for it, and I was like, I don't care. But then they redid it and actually got me a little bit interested in it. So if they actually did that on purpose, good for them.
I think that's be a very expensive ploy to do. I mean, to sit on a movie for another almost year.
Well, I mean, if they had to redo the whole thing, yes. But if they put out like a fake bad one, just to kind of see, I don't know. It's obviously not probable, but we've seen crazier things.
It would really depend on what their marketing budget was in the first place. So if that was designed into their marketing budget, then obviously it worked. Yeah. It's a big risk.
Yeah.
Because what if people don't say shit? So then you're like, oh well, we just did all this work on this crappy design for what? And then they just continue on with that for the rest of the movie. Yeah. Maybe. But
we'll get that with G.I. Joe too. We'll never know.
I would say unlikely, but interesting story.
Okay.
But yeah, basically that's a good lead into what I was saying before Bobby brought up that tangent. Thanks a lot, Bobby. Just kidding. That would lead us right into what we didn't like about the movie. And I'm not sure if we can really talk about what we didn't like about the movie without really getting into spoilers. So maybe let's just consider that the warning. For me, the dialogue was really shallow. There was a lot of missed opportunities for funny jokes, and like you said, Bobby, there was really no adult humor whatsoever.
Yeah, not even a little bit.
Yeah, so it wasn't. I don't know why they didn't try and at least get parents into the mix too, because it was so clearly made for kids. You gotta please the people that are bringing them. So that was probably my biggest complaint, is so many missed opportunities with humor. It was a little rough.
Very rough. And then for me, I guess.
Very rough.
Let's go back down to Jim Carrey. He's just we know him as an overactor, and that's what he does. But I think a lot of times it's kind of awkward, some of the scenes he was doing and some of his choices he made. I felt we were just getting recycled other characters a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm. An amalgamation of his other characters.
Like what, for example?
Like I said, the Riddler. I mean, at the same time it worked, but at the same time it was kind of like, okay, show us something new. Maybe do something a little different. But I mean, it's Jim Carrey. I don't know how many tricks he has in his bag. He's probably played them all.
Well, I liked how he was super cartoony. It fit the tone of the movie. But I remember when he first was introduced into the film, and this is probably the first spoiler, but he was just super mean-spirited and it was so jarring at first, because I was like, this character is going to be super annoying the rest of the freaking movie. Just the way he was treating the soldier or whatever, and it was just like, why? It was just so much so quick. I was very confused at first. And eventually you get used to it, and his ridiculousness is kind of, it ends up working out for the best, I think. But his introduction was rough for me personally.
What I thought was funny, and I would say this is a detraction from it, is they had Neil McDonough in the movie, who, for any Justified fans, he's Robert Quarles, and they had him say like 4 words, and he was out of the movie.
He said
I'm not,
one word, stuttered it 20 times.
I'm not saying he's a star by any stretch, but why bring a recognizable actor into that role to literally have him in for nothing the rest of the movie? I just thought that was a really interesting thing to happen, because I figured he'd be kind of like the foil to Jim Carrey's character, like throughout the way. Maybe they struggle for power, but that didn't remotely happen.
Yeah, that would have made it a lot more interesting. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What was the runtime of this movie? Because for me, it seemed really short. Because
I know that
they
have a pretty developed friendship into a very short amount of time.
Yeah, that's probably the next thing that we could talk about, is the fact that their relationship, although wasn't horrible, but it didn't seem very earned to me. I might be the only one who thinks that, but
I feel the same way.
Usually in these types of movies, and I don't know if it was intentional for them to not do that this time, but in most of these types of movies where there's an unlikely coupling that becomes a friendship, there's always a time where they argue or one loses trust in the other, and then it has to be re-earned, and that's usually right before the big climax where they get back together and save the day or whatever. That does happen in this movie, but it's so short and so out of nowhere.
It's like a minute long, and it's such a weird thing to fight about.
Yeah, then that's kind of why I was wondering about the runtime too, because you had mentioned it would be cool if Quarles' character was a foil to Robotnik,
Mm-hmm.
but there wasn't enough time in the movie for that to be developed, and there definitely wasn't enough time for the friendship to be developed. So, how long is this?
It's
an hour
140. So
it's not short, but it felt way.
But it's not long, so yeah. I don't know. It just I think nothing about this was for anybody but kids. So it's like anybody who knows anything about movies, which I think the three of us know a pretty good amount. We noticed that there was just things off about it, like from normal storytelling.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, because just to elaborate on that situation, Sonic gets mad at Donut Lord because he's leaving town by choice. He's leaving his home by choice, and Sonic had to leave his home against his will. So he's essentially jealous of Donut Lord's situation and doesn't understand it, so he gets upset. Immediately after he brings it up, okay, so so Robotnik's chasing them in a car, which is a pretty entertaining scene. Not a lot of good punchlines that were thrown out on that point, though. But really cool action. They're arguing the whole time, so it's kind of like one of those funny scenes where, like, do we really need to be talking about this right now? Sonic gets injured, he's revived, and then almost immediately apologizes for getting mad for getting mad in the first place.
It was so rushed.
There was nothing.
But that scene was really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was one of the better scenes in the movie for sure.
But the only thing that resolved their issue was essentially time. Like, there was no further discussion about it.
You talked about this in other movies. It's a check mark on the checklist.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And it didn't seem like James Marsden's character did anything to really earn the apology back from Sonic. It was just kind of like, oh, I'm there. I changed my mind. I realized
I was wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So that
for no reason.
That made the movie seem really rushed as well.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Another thing that I thought was interesting is so they're moving from a small town in Montana to San Francisco for him to be a big city cop, and they had a listing for apartments that they were looking at. So he's married to a veterinarian, and they were going to get a $4,500 a month apartment in San Francisco on a cop and a veterinarian's salary.
Vets make pretty good money, but
what the hell?
There's no way she had any kind of clientele.
Yeah, there's like one horse in the town.
Yeah.
And just bring up the other characters. That's one of the other characters. I was like, okay, what's the point of this character?
Yeah, good point.
And then also her sister. There's the whole thing. I'm not giving that away. That does not deserve to be spoiled. Everyone needs to.
No, I think we need to give that away.
I don't know. It's
because that was my biggest issue with the movie.
It was
baffling. We got to talk about
that. Is
that.
What it was.
Go ahead and explain it, Jay.
All right. So
everyone's been warned.
Spoilers.
James Marsden's wife's sister is completely against them being married. Okay, so we're hoping maybe there's some side story, some backstory. Maybe she just doesn't think she's good enough for her because she left someone else for him, or maybe he had some storied past that we don't know about. And so the whole movie, she's bad mouthing him, telling him, "I told you should have left him." She's spelling out the word divorced in front of her young child, and then just being a complete bad example of just being a horrible person. And in the end, you never find out why she's like that.
There's no reason for it whatsoever.
And not only that, normally this type of character is introduced as a person that you're supposed to dislike,
Right.
and they get some sort of comeuppance, and that doesn't really happen here. She gets tied up for a little bit, and then that's about it.
She may have had to pee her pants.
Yeah, or
exactly,
that
big
person
deal.
comes around, gets turned around, and they come to the other side and see the light and their error and their judgment.
Right, yeah.
And they end up loving the person, or something happens. So some resolution, but nothing.
It's
The
almost
weirdest part. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, it's almost the exact opposite as the assistant in Jurassic World, the first one, who gets brutally murdered by the freaking whale dinosaur for literally no reason. It's like that person got such a comeuppance for not doing anything wrong, and then this person is such a horrible human that she may have to pee her pants. It's like it's so weird. The balance is just way off. So that to me, and I don't know that actress. She may be a great actress. I don't know her filmography, but
Bad writing.
it seemed to me like maybe that was a favor done for her. Like someone knew somebody, like, hey, put her in the movie. I don't want to disrespect the lady, but it seemed very tacked on, like last minute. Like, oh, we got to have one of these characters who's just mean for no reason. It was
Or
strange.
maybe the resolution was edited out and we just didn't get to see it.
Maybe it's a deleted scene.
Yeah,
but it's
maybe.
like the weirdest
Maybe.
part for me is like, okay, so another spoiler here. James Marsden gets called a terrorist because he's got Sonic and they're going on their journey here. So Robotnik makes him look like a terrorist. And when the sister-in-law learns about it, she's like, I knew it. You never should have married him. Like, you knew he was going to be a terrorist? What the hell?
All small town sheriffs have the potential, Bobby. Duh.
That's true. Of course.
Yeah, it was strange.
was
That
odd.
was the worst part. Well, how about the fact that there was not really that much of a plot to this movie, really, either.
Very
it was-
straightforward.
Yeah.
Lose the rings, go on the journey to get the rings.
Yeah.
Go home, decide to stay here.
Well, let's go through
just-
that timeline real quick, because that's really when the plot gets going. Is when they meet and he loses his rings, right? After
So,
that,
what do the rings do? We should probably.
okay, yeah. So his rings that he's always known for having, they're basically teleportation devices. So he thinks of a place he wants to go, he can throw them in the air, it opens a portal, and he runs through it, and then it closes behind him and disappears. So they're like his prized possession, and there's his way out for every time he gets discovered on whatever world he's on. So he's trying to get away from Earth and go to another planet when James Marsden's character shoots him with a tranquilizer gun. He drops his rings through the hole and they end up in San Francisco. That brings their two storylines together. So now they have a common goal in getting to San Francisco, or I guess. it's weak, but that's essentially what they're doing. So after that, what happens along the way before getting to San Francisco? You have them stopping at that biker bar.
The bucket
Like
list.
bar. Yeah, the bucket list.
So the
thing.
bucket list, and then they have the car chase with that big tank drone, and then
They meet at the house for the sister-in-law.
yeah, and then there's the final battle. So there's essentially
Happens pretty quick.
3 things that happen in this movie. It's for kids, but it just seems incredibly shallow in terms of what actually happens in this movie. It's very very limited.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's like I just wish they would have done more with Jim Carrey or any of the side characters. Like Jim Carrey had an assistant who he was sort of at odds with because I guess Jim Carrey's character is the smartest character or smartest person on the planet, and so everybody else is just garbage to him. And so he kept on tormenting his assistant, but his assistant just allowed him to do it. Nobody really stood up to him, which again, Neil McDonough as the foil in the military would have been nice, but it's not that kind of movie, I guess.
Well, there should have been more interaction between Tom and Robotnik too, because he has the phone call with him, and that's 10 seconds because they're chasing the call or they're listening in on the call because he calls back to his sheriff's station, and then Robotnik just grabs the phone from him and says, I'm pretty sure, like one sentence before Tom hangs up on him. Yeah. And that's pretty much it until they meet again at the very end in San Francisco. And then that's a very short interaction too. So
he did punch him in his kitchen.
True. So that was actually a really good scene. I actually thought that was really enjoyable, their back and forth there. So it made me want more of it, and it doesn't ever really come. And you don't get much of that with Sonic and Robotnik either. They don't have. It's very strange. There's no organic relationships between any of the heroes and the villain. It's very weird. And then the villain also doesn't have a lot of interaction with his supporting roles or his supporting cast either. With the exception of making fun of his assistant every once in a while. That again seemed super limited.
I think it's a shame too, because when we did see interaction between Marsden and Jim Carrey, it was pretty good because it almost had like this Blumpkin, the small Bumpkin.
Blumpkin? What's a small town Blumpkin, Jay, versus a big town Blumpkin?
Small town Blumpkin sheriff.
How many Blumpkins can
edit that out, all right?
I'm not editing that out.
1, 2, 3. A small town Bumpkin sheriff.
Leaving it in.
Matching wits with the smartest guy on earth. And then I really enjoyed that because you could see Jim Carrey is kind of caught off guard by his wit, and it's like kind of like almost a clash of wills and I want to say intelligence, but smarts. I don't know. Right. That's the other word. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like James Marsden's character was more clever and wily and witty, and Jim Carrey's character was just brute strength smarts. That seems like an oxymoron now that I think about it. But yeah, it was a cool dynamic for sure that I definitely wanted more of, and hopefully we get that in the eventual sequel.
Spoilers.
I think we are into hard spoilers already.
Yeah, we've already been
put a big
basically
label on the title.
Plot. Yeah, you get. I mean, we're going at we're about 26 minutes, and I think we did spoilers after 5. So that ship has sailed.
So the name of our show is spoilers.
So one thing that I wanted to talk about, I read about this maybe a week ago, is that apparently Chris Pratt was actually supposed to be cast in James Marsden's role, but that ended up not happening. But I could totally see that, and I feel like it probably would have been a better fit to have Chris Pratt as the Donut King or Donut Lord than James Marsden, because he's just so much zanier and he just plays those roles so well.
I'm Donut Lord, man.
I don't know if there was a substantial amount of meat in this movie for Chris Pratt to sink his teeth into, if you know what I mean.
Well, he may have been able to increase, I think that his comedic sense is probably better than James Marsden's.
Yeah.
Just from what I've seen on film. So maybe his ad-libbing would have added more to the character. It would have been a little bit more endearing. They probably would have been able to expand on it a little more. So I think that is a easy net gain when adding Chris Pratt to this role over James Marsden. And I really like James Marsden.
Oh yeah, he was good in the role. I just think Chris Pratt would have been just better. And it's like, like I've heard so many stories on Parks and Rec how he did things that weren't scripted and they were just hilarious. And then they ended up going with it. I don't know how the direction was. I don't know how strict the director was for this movie, but Chris Pratt, he probably makes every movie he's in better.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one of my favorite actors right now, so that would only be a plus.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we talk about where the sequel may go, because there is a stinger after the credits or the mid-credits scene where my favorite character, because having an older brother, I always had to be player 2 when I was playing these games, so Tails was my guy. So Tails shows up at the very end of this movie on Earth through one of the rings and says, oh, he's here, and then flies off all fast. So obvious setup for the sequel. And then, before that even, they show Robotnik on another planet in his more video game faithful character design.
What's that, handlebar mustache?
And it's in the trailer, so that's not right.
It's like a blown out mustache, like exploded on the ends.
It's like it's like a chopper, like a motorcycle. And he's bald too, so obviously he's going to be in the next one. Being a genius that he is, he'll figure out a way back home. And then Miles is going to find Sonic. So what do you guys think the dynamic between Miles and Sonic's going to be? Like, do you think they know each other at all right now? Do you
Gotta
think
be
that?
childhood friends. And, like that's the vibe that I got.
I don't think so, because I think that it's going to be something like Sonic's the key to something in terms of
Yeah,
like saving
like they've been looking
Tails'
for him
planet, or yeah, they've been
for a
looking for him
while.
all along, and I would be willing to bet that Miles, his name is Miles, by the way, Miles Tails is his nickname, but I think that it's going to be more of like this guy needs. It's going to be like the Last Jedi essentially, where Rey shows up to talk to Luke, and then unlike Luke, Sonic's going to be like, sure, because he's a good guy and he's not a piece of shit.
He's a hero.
Exactly. So that's kind of where I think it's going to go.
I think that'd be a fun movie. I wonder I wonder how Robotnik would be put into that situation. Like if he would stumble upon it, or if he would know something about it based on living in another world now.
So the way that the games are, where you travel from like world to world, that's I would assume it, or I would be willing to bet that they're going to make it like a world jumping type of movie where Robotnik's going to be chasing them from world to world, and it all in the in getting revenge basically. That'd be my guess. And then so they have two opposing goals: Sonic and Tails trying to get back to wherever Tails needs them so he can save the day, and Robotnik trying to follow them to these places to essentially kill him. So yeah, I think that'd be a pretty fun movie. It'd be interesting to see how the different worlds in the video games are, shown on TV or on the big screen.
I'm really waiting to see a lot of the other characters too. Some of them are pretty cool, like much more cooler than Tails.
How dare you? He's the best character. How dare you? Well, they definitely allude to whatever species Knuckles is. Would you say it was an echidna?
Yeah.
There's this tribe at the beginning of the movie when you're on Sonic's original world, and they look very much like Knuckles, but with like masks and like and some sort of clothing on. Yeah, very tribal. And they're chasing him and stuff. So that's an obvious Easter egg to Knuckles. So I wonder if he's going to have any kind of role in the next one, or if they're going to save that for maybe
I don't know. My feeling is that Sonic is key to something on his homeworld, and when he left, there's been an imbalance, and Tails is trying to get him back. And then that homeworld is pretty much like central to those destined to those teleporting rings, and that's what leads Robotnik to that planet. And then therefore there's a whole situation there for the second movie.
Well, I'd definitely go see it. This one was good. Like this one, like I said, it kept my attention the whole time. So I would give it about a 6.5 to 7. But for a video game movie, that's basically like an A. So I would definitely see a sequel.
Yeah, it's a perfect 5 out of 7.
5 out of 7.
What rating would you give it, Jay?
I'm also giving it a 7. 7 out of 10.
I was originally going to give it a 7 out of 10, but I think now after we've talked about it, I'm going to give it a 4. No, just kidding. I think I'm going to give it like a 6.5. I think that the dialogue was a big issue for me. It seemed very very shallow, and I'm trying to get in the mindset of a kid as much as I can, but it just it didn't hook me. Like there wasn't a time where I was like, oh, that was a really cool thing that they just did, or a really cool thing they just said. So yeah, I think 6.5, 6.8 range is probably what I would give it, which is still great for a video game movie.
Yeah, it's interesting because like when I saw Shazam, I saw it from a kid's perspective. I'm like, this is what I would have done as a kid, and it's like, so I kind of understood it from that mindset. I didn't get that vibe at all with this movie. So it's like you can make a movie geared towards kids, but still relatable and still good. This are still, I guess, great. This just wasn't that movie. This was more than acceptable, less than good.
This to me almost felt like almost like a tech demo. You know, like when they'll release a video game that has a new concept and it's not very deep, and then they'll expand on that for a sequel. That's kind of what I think this movie was. They were being very conservative, very cautious on what they were making in order to see if it would work in any sense. And for what it was, it works, and it makes me optimistic for the future. But is it a mind-blowing movie, must-see movie? I'm not so sure. So that's why I would say it's barely passing for me. So anybody else have anything to add?
Nah,
Just looking forward to hearing about the sequel.
Yeah, that wraps it up pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the sequel may be out by Christmas. If you've seen
Wouldn't
the
surprise
movie,
me.
you'll know what I mean. All right. Yeah, so let's wrap it up. That was our review of Sonic the Hedgehog movie. A definitely encouraging go back into the video game movie genre. So yeah, let's stay tuned for a sequel or other movies that pop up as a result of this. So yeah, check us out. Leave what you thought of the movie in the comments. Let us know what you think about our thoughts. And hit subscribe for the next time. So goodbye, everybody.
If you got any guff, send it my way.
I got send jail the guff.
This one didn't get away from me, but some others will.
Well, it's because we had to force you to see it. But until next time, shred the gnar.
Wow.
Get hated.
So hated.
See you next time.